Om Dyo Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apaha Shanti Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishvedeva Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredhi Om Shanti 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 Om. May there be peace in heaven. May there be peace in the sky. May there be peace on earth. May there be peace in the water. May there be peace in the plants. May there be peace in the trees. May there be peace in the gods, in the various worlds. May there be peace in Brahman. May there be peace in all. May there be peace indeed within peace, giving me the peace which grows within me. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everyone. It's been a while, almost a year, since I was here last. Good morning, sisters. I didn't get the chance to greet my sisters today. Hey there. Well, the subject today is a very interesting subject. Since I was very young, I was very intrigued by this faith. What is faith? And most importantly, what is true faith? Looks like that type of faith needs to be real in our life. Throughout the next 50 minutes, we'll be discussing about the importance, the meaning of the word faith, or what we call true faith, according to Vedanta. What do we mean by faith? Do we mean beliefs? No, not really. Because true faith is more than just believing. While faith surely includes the element of belief, they are not one and the same. What do you think? Faith and belief. Let's think about it. Certainly, one must believe that something or someone exists before it is possible to put one's faith in that person or thing. However, I can believe in some things that do not affect my life. And guess what? True faith really needs to affect our lives. I can say that I believe a plane can take me from here to there, but if I'm afraid to get on it, I reveal that I have no faith in that plane. I do not get on the plane, I have no reason to expect it to take me anywhere. I, therefore, must exercise my faith in that plane by boarding it if I am to receive the benefits it offers. Is it clear? Simple, right? So when it comes to real faith is almost the same. Of course, this is just an illustration, and as such, I'm able to convey to you only part of what true faith really is. True faith is strengthening, enlightening, invigorating. True faith cannot make us feel weak physically, emotionally, spiritually. True faith is inner conviction. True faith is an intuitive understanding that something is true. An intuitive understanding that something is true. And because truth is freedom, true faith will make us free. And this is here where the scriptures, our rishis, come forward to really encourage us to get hold of this, what we call faith. In Sanskrit it's called Shraddha. Why? Because it will make us free. Yesterday on my way here, I came here with a couple of friends and brothers. We stopped by Ananda Ashram. I don't know if you've been there in La Crescenta. I was impressed by a huge mural. There is a poem written by Swami Paramananda. It says, "Faith, the shining jewel of life that performs all miracles." The jewel of life that performs all miracles. And I was like, sure, because when we have true faith, we see the world and its system in an entirely different way. Why not? That could be a miracle itself. The power of true faith enlightens us to the true nature of things, the true nature of things, and actually causes us to think differently, to act differently, and to be coherent with who we are. True faith results in changed actions. It should result in the transformation of our personality. True faith should be seen in our actions. True faith will change our priorities. And what is our priority in life? Our commitment to our spiritual life should be our priority. That's the test of true faith. Absurdity is the anguish of realizing that underneath the apparently logical pattern of a more or less well-organized and rational life, there lies the abyss, chasm of irrationality, confusion, pointlessness, and indeed of apparent chaos. Absurdity is the anguish of realizing that underneath the apparently logical pattern of a more or less well-organized and rational life, there lies the abyss, chasm of irrationality, confusion, pointlessness, and indeed apparent chaos. Did you follow me? It's pretty good. This is what immediately impresses itself upon the man who has renounced diversion. Those activities that divert the mind from serious concerns. It cannot be otherwise. For in renouncing diversion, he renounces the seemingly harmless pleasure of building a tight, self-contained illusion about himself and his little world. It's very sharp. He accepts the difficulty of facing the million things in his life which are incomprehensible, instead of simply ignoring them. Incidentally, it is only when the apparent absurdity of life is faced in all truth that faith really becomes possible. Otherwise, faith tends to be a kind of diversion, a spiritual amusement in which one gathers up accepted conventional formulas and arranges them in the approved mental patterns without bothering to investigate their meaning or asking if they have any practical consequences in one's life. Thomas Merton. Should I read it again? Did you get it? Was it good? In renouncing diversion, he renounces the seemingly harmless pleasure of building a tight, self-contained illusion about himself and his little world. Otherwise, faith tends to be a kind of diversion, a spiritual amusement in which one gathers up accepted conventional formulas and arranges them in the approved mental patterns without bothering to investigate their meaning or asking if they have any practical consequences in our lives or in one's lifetime. In Sanskrit, there is a word, I mentioned it before, it's called Shraddha. The word Shraddha is very, very important in Vedanta, in our philosophy or way of life. Its meaning is very subtle and conveys many more things than a belief, truth, reliance, dependence upon someone or something. Swami Vivekananda, our teacher, he says it is hard to translate the word Shraddha. It's a wonderful word to understand, and much depends on it. Shraddha is the keynote of the Veda and Vedanta, the Upanishads. The principle of Shraddha is very important to understand and to cultivate. It is a mental attitude constituted primarily of sincerity of purpose, humility, reverence, and firm devotion. Firm devotion. That is called faith. We call it faith. That never wavers in doubts. Shraddha is the strong, intuitive understanding that something is true. It is explained in Sanskrit as astikya buddhihi. Astikya buddhihi. Those who have the consciousness that their reality is or self exists. In short, it's a strong intuitive understanding in the reality of the teachings of the scriptures. Shraddha is considered as one of the basic virtues necessary for the development of a spiritual life. Without it, no spirituality can be attained. Shraddha is all over our Vedantic scriptures. Let me give you some examples. Shraddha is considered the most important qualification for the Vedantic student. A student who treads the paths of truth must first be equipped with sadhana chatushtaya, or the four means of salvation. Viveka, discrimination; vairagya, dispassion; shat sampad, sixfold qualities of perfection; and mumukshutvam, desire for liberation, craving for liberation. I also call it the need to understand. What is all this? So in between I mention Shat Sampat, which are the sixfold qualities of perfection, which are sama, serenity, tranquility, dhamma, rational control of the senses, uparati, it is resolutely turning the mind away from desires for sensual enjoyments, resolutely turning the mind away from sensual desires. Titiksha, we call it patience. It's called the power of endurance. Shraddha, here it comes, Shraddha. It is intense faith in the words of the Guru, intense faith in the words of the Guru, in Vedantic scriptures, and above all, in one's own self. It is not blind faith, but it is based on accurate reasoning, evidence, and experience. As such, it is lasting, perfect, and unshakable. Such faith is capable of achieving anything. The next virtue is called samadhana, which is fixing the mind on the ultimate. We call it Brahman in Sanskrit. Now let's get back to Shraddha. That intense faith in the words of the Guru, the Vedantic scriptures, and above all, in one's self. It is not a blind faith, but it is based on accurate reasoning, evidence, and experience. Our teacher, Sri Ramakrishna, says, faith, he who has faith has it all. He who has faith has it all. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the teacher tells the student, "Oh student, may you have faith, may you have Shraddha." In the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says in chapter number 4, verse 39, Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatpara sanyatendriyaha jnanam ladhva param shantihi achirenadhigacchati. Those whose faith is deep and who have mastered their senses attain divine knowledge. Through such transcendental knowledge, they quickly attain everlasting supreme peace. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. The one who has the qualification of Shraddha will attain divine knowledge. Shri Krishna also says in chapter number 17 that the one without Shraddha will not progress spiritually. In the nectar of the words of Sri Ramakrishna, translated here as the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find a conversation between a devotee and the master Thakur, Sri Ramakrishna. Sir, is there any help for a worldly person? Master, certainly there is. From time to time he should live in the company of holy men, and from time to time go into solitude to meditate on God. Furthermore, he should practice discrimination and pray to God, "Give me faith and devotion." Once a person has faith, he has achieved everything. There is nothing greater than faith, Sri Ramakrishna says. You must have heard about the tremendous power of faith. Once a man was about to cross the sea. Vibhishana wrote Rama's name on a leaf, tied it on a corner of the man's wearing cloth, and said to him, "Don't be afraid. Have faith and walk on the water. But look here, the moment you lose faith, you will be drowned." The man was walking easily on the water. Suddenly, he had an intense desire to see what was tied in his cloth. He opened it and found only a leaf with the name of Rama written on it. "What is this?" he thought. Just the name of Rama. As soon as doubt entered his mind, he sunk under the water. Now, this is very subtle, because in this illustration, the whole message is conveyed. What is the message? That Shraddha, true faith, is about this. Not having the slightest doubt about what the teacher says. In our case, about the message of the scriptures. The message of our teachers. As is a man's meditation, so is his feeling for love. As is a man's meditation, so is his feeling of love. As is a man's feeling of love, so is his gain. And faith is the root of all. If one has faith, one has nothing to fear. Shri Krishna says in chapter number 9, verse number 3, Ashraddhadana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Those without Shraddha, who are not faithful to this dharma, who are not faithful, those who have no faith in the knowledge of the self, the capital self, those who regard the physical body as the capital self, this body, nothing else, cannot attain me, Krishna says. O Arjuna, but return to birth and death in this material world. Again, in the Katha Upanishad, we find this amazing example of Shraddha by Nachiketa. Those who know or read the Upanishad, this particular Upanishad, is a beautiful, beautiful example. Swami Dhyanayogananda calls it genuine faith. That Shraddha which emboldened Nachiketa to face Yama, the king of death, and question him. Nachiketa is the main character of the Katha Upanishad, who was sent to the abode of Yama, the Hindu god of death, where he asked Yama some questions related to life after death, soul, salvation, etc. Initially, Yama was reluctant to answer those questions and gave Nachiketa several offers such as long life, vast kingdom, beautiful women, wealth, for not asking those questions, those fundamental questions. But Nachiketa was firm and rejected all these offers, and finally Yama had to answer his questions. The ignorant, the mind devoid of Shraddha, the doubting self runs to ruin. Now, let's go to the core of the meaning of Shraddha, according to Vedanta. Are you here with me? Okay, this is very important. Let me try to explain what Shraddha is traditionally according to Vedanta. The word Shraddha is generally translated as faith or belief. But these translations can create a lot of misunderstandings. If we use the word faith, we need to properly understand its meaning. The word faith, translated as superstition or belief, has created a huge conflict between religion and science. We have been getting used to the idea that these two are inimical to each other. In faith, you are supposed to accept things, which means wherever there is faith, there is no inquiry, there is no questioning. Is that our experience? Faith, in this sense, therefore, is an obstacle to the questioning mind. Science can progress only through questioning and inquiring. To say I'm religious leave people with a sour taste, meaning there is not much reason around. To say I'm rational, I have a spirit of inquiry, is supposed to be modern and cool. Let us be cool. Shraddha is a principle of knowledge which is arrived through a very, very subtle way of inquiry. What is that inquiry? It deals with the most fundamental question of life. Who am I? Very subtle way of inquiry. Who am I? Is there a world in front of me? Is that world real? Does it exist? How do I know that it is a fact and not a fiction? Not many people ask themselves these questions. Not many people. It is only when the apparent absurdity of life is faced in all truth that faith really becomes possible. It is only when the apparent absurdity of life is faced in all truth that faith really becomes possible. Everybody takes the existence of the world for granted. Anybody accepting something without inquiring is supposed to be a superstitious person. How do I know the world is a fact and not a fiction? This question has been raised by the ancient rishis, seers of the truth, and they arrived at very important knowledge. When you look out there, the world, we look at the world as an existing world and we take it as it is, as a fact, because the world is revealed to us through our sense organs. We take it as such because the sense organs are valid sources of knowledge. How do you experience the world? Can you prove it? Through our senses. These sources are true, are factual, because validity is inbuilt into every primary source of knowledge. Validity, the matter of fact, factness, truthfulness, trustworthiness is inbuilt in every primary source of knowledge. Validity is intrinsic nature. Validity is the intrinsic nature of every primary source of knowledge. Validity is the essential nature of every primary source of knowledge. Just as heat is the essential nature of the fire. Coldness is the essential nature of the ice. Validity is the essential nature of every primary source of knowledge. Shraddha is a knowledge of a principle arrived through a very sharp and subtle inquiry. And this knowledge you can arrive at only when you inquire about the real nature of things. This idea of validity is the nature of the source of knowledge. In other words, what is the nature of the source of knowledge? Its validity. It's valid. In Sanskrit, it is called Swatah Pramanyam. validity, trustworthiness is the intrinsic nature of every primary source of knowledge. This understanding or knowledge, swatah pramanyam, which you arrive at through this subtle fundamental inquiry, this knowledge you arrive is called Shraddha, true faith. If Shraddha is born out of inquiry, how can Shraddha be an enemy of inquiry? Vedanta is all about inquiry. Shravana, you might have heard. Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. This is the practice. Shravana, you listen. Manana, think about it. You reason. Nididhyasana, you meditate. This is the application in your life. The word manana stands for vichara. We also use the term Vedanta vichara, reasoning. In fact, the word Vedanta, in Vedanta, all teachers encourage inquiry and questioning. Whoever does not have Shraddha has not made the fundamental inquiry. What is the question? Who am I? What is all this? Let's stop the world for a moment and think about it. Let us not take things for granted. He or she who has taken these fundamental questions for granted, and therefore he or she has taken these fundamental questions for granted, and therefore we call them superstitious. They fold them into superstitions. Shraddha is a fundamental knowledge required even before entering the quest of the Vedanta. Shraddha is the keynote, says Swami Dhyanayogananda, of the Veda and Vedanta. What are the primary sources of knowledge? I ask you. What are the primary sources of knowledge? Our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, our skin. These 5 sources of knowledge are primary sources, and all the 5 have got these swatah pramanyam, validity, factness, truthfulness, trustworthiness is inbuilt in every primary source of knowledge. The understanding of swatah pramanyam is called Shraddha. If you had any sense organs, your field of knowledge would expand your world. If you had another sense organ, your field of knowledge would expand your world. Imagine, we have our eyes, our ears, and we add another one. We complement it. We expand. And Vedanta is all about expanding, not contracting. So what is the 6th sense organ? What do you think it is? The message of our scriptures, the Vedas, is considered one more source of knowledge. It is the 6th primary source of knowledge. The Vedas is going to expand the horizon of your knowledge only if you want. One primary source of knowledge will never obstruct the functioning of another primary source of knowledge. A second primary source will not be able to thread to another primary source of knowledge. By nature, every primary source of knowledge is going to expand your horizon by a primary source of knowledge, a primary source of knowledge will be useful to you only if you use it. If you got that Shraddha, you've got another sixth sense organ. Veda is called pratyaksha, that which is before your eyes. The message of the scriptures, discovered, seen, experienced by these teachers, like Jesus, for example, is considered a swatah pramanyam, another sense organ. And it is to be like, it is said, it is like a pratyaksha, the sense of seeing. Just as I see you, just as you see me, that's how it is considered. You may ask, well, Swami, what if I just don't want to accept that, another sense organ? Well, it's up to you. You can live without using the sense of vision. You can be blind. You could be blind and still be living here. That's what happens to us by not accepting this sixth sense organ. Is there anything wrong if I don't accept it? Well, if you are not going to use your eyes, you can still live. It's up to you. If you have Shraddha and make use of the Vedas and the message of the Vedas, you will definitely benefit from it. A man must have not only faith, but intellectual faith only, says Swami Vivekananda. Intellectual faith. We have to think about it. Is it worth it? Does it make sense? Can I expand if I accept this? Will it make me free? That's the question. Always. Whatever makes you free is valid. We've been taught to believe blindly. This idea of blind faith is objectionable, no doubt, but analyzing it, we find that behind it is a very great truth. All argument and reasoning must be based upon certain perceptions. Without these, there cannot be any argument. Reasoning is the method of comparison between certain facts which we have already perceived. If these perceived facts are not there already, there cannot be any reasoning. If this is true of external phenomena, why should it not be so of the internal? All knowledge must stand on perception of certain facts, and upon that we have to build our reasoning. But, curiously enough, the vast majority of mankind think, especially at the present time, that no such perception is possible in religion, that religion can only be apprehended by vain arguments. We have to analyze our own souls and to find what is there. We have to understand it and to realize what is understood. To realize, to turn something into our reality, what is understood. Make it real in your life. Religion is a question of fact, not of talk. Religion is realization, not talk, not doctrines, nor theories. However beautiful all these may be, religion is being and becoming, not hearing and acknowledging. Being and becoming, not hearing and acknowledging. As you see, this kind of faith encourages us to have Shraddha in the message of the seers of the truth found in the Vedas. And what are the teachings of the Vedas? That we are all divine beings. That we are all the one without a second. That our name and form, nama rupa, makes us forget our divine nature. That among all of us there is no difference in kind, but in degree of manifestation of our divinity. The Vedas encourage people to live a God-centered life. We cannot define what God is, but the God of Vedanta is that impersonal, where all personalities are possible and included. You all know this. We call it Satchit Ananda, existence absolute, awareness absolute, and bliss absolute. We can lead a God-centered life, the worship of God, in everything. By worshiping that, capital, in everything, we will know God. But what's the problem? We can't accept it. We just go, yeah, I heard that. Most of you must be thinking that. Okay, Swami, same. This again and again. Yes. Take it, accept it, have Shraddha, practice it. See God in everything, in you first, your family, everywhere. Let us be no more the worshipper of creeds or sects with small, limited notions of God, but see Him in everything in the universe. Have Shraddha, feel, thou art that. Get rid, in the first place, of all these limited ideas and see God in every person, working through all hands, walking through all feet, and eating through every mouth, in every being He lives. Through all minds He thinks. He is self-evident, nearer to us than ourselves. That's the message. That's pratyaksha. In front of us. Know this is religion. Know this to be true faith. When we shall feel that oneness, we shall be immortal. In order to be able to worship God in everything, we require two things. Shraddha in the personal God, one of the so many personal aspects included in the impersonal, and Shraddha in the worship itself, in the practice. That Shraddha, that true faith, will be converted into faith in myself. Swami Vivekananda talks about three types of faith. Faith in oneself, faith in God, in the teacher, in the rishi, in the seer of the truth, and faith in the message of the scriptures. The difference between man and man is owing to the existence and non-existence of faith in himself. Faith in ourselves will do everything. The greatest religion is to be true to your own nature. have faith in yourselves. If you do not exist, love this, if you do not exist, how can God exist? Or anybody else? Wherever you are, it is this mind that perceives even the infinite. I see God, therefore He exists. If I cannot think of God, He doesn't exist for me. Now, what do you want to choose? I choose that will make me free. The matrix was the red or the blue pill. You pick the one. That intense faith in God, that intense faith in the immortal soul is in you. This will give us the right confidence supported by self, capital Self, and will turn our ego confidence into divine confidence. It is not selfish faith. Veda and Vedanta is the doctrine of oneness. It means faith in all, because you are all. Love for yourselves means love for all, love for animals, love for everything. If you are all one. It is the great faith which will make the world better. It is the great faith which will make the world better. The faith which Christ instilled in His disciples by calling them the salt of the earth was not faith in the lower self, the ego, but faith in the higher self, faith in God within them. With such faith comes self-surrender, freedom from any sense of ego. Thomas Merton says, self-confidence is a precious natural gift, a sign of health, but it is not the same thing as faith. Faith is much deeper. It must be deep enough to subsist when we are weak, when we are sick, when our self-confidence is gone, when our self-respect is gone. I do not mean that faith only functions when we are otherwise in a state of collapse. True faith must be able to go on even when everything else is taken away from us. Only a humble man is able to accept faith on these terms, so completely without reservation that he is glad of it in its pure state and welcomes it happily even when nothing else comes with it and when everything else is taken away. Therefore, when we have true faith in ourselves, in our teacher like Jesus, and in the message of the scriptures, we see the world and its system in an entirely different way. The power of Shraddha enlightens us as to the true nature of things and actually causes us to think differently, to act differently, and to be coherent with who we are in reality. Is it getting clearer? Now, Jesus of Nazareth, according to me, humbly speaking, was no doubt a human being like many of these amazing rishis, teachers of the world, who experienced in their very life what we call cosmic consciousness, absolute awareness, and you don't have to belong to any specific religion. You don't have to belong to any specific religion to have this experience. When we have true saving faith in Jesus the Christ, the Holy Spirit enlightens us as to the true nature of things and actually causes us to think differently. For those who live according to the flesh, flesh set their minds on things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine, that does them not, and does them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. True faith makes us strive until we too are reborn in spirit and enter into the kingdom of heaven in this very life. Let us be true to ourselves. Let us validate ourselves. Let us validate our teachers and the scriptures by the power of what we call Shraddha, by seeing God in everything, so that we can transform our lives into a heaven on earth. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna. From fullness of divine consciousness, the world is manifested. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna indeed remains, because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace.